Hey everyone, I'm John O'Rowe and I am the owner of J-Ports. That is an export company and we deal in buying and selling, mainly reselling a lot of luxury brand items, starting from Louis Vuitton, Chanel, Hermes, Gucci, and much, much more as well. So today is lesson 2 on the reseller tips, and here is our next lesson. Today's lesson is manage your concept. And that comes to basically like everything that you do with your reselling business is manage your concept, which is what you're buying, what you're selling, what kind of people you want to target, your market, and everything like that. It really comes down to a lot of things. You can just I would say a lot of people when they're buying, sometimes as a buyer, you tend to buy things that you like personally. But the problem is that if you like something that personally, you tend to overvalue it just because you connect with it, and that can be a problem. So you've got to manage your expectations as a buyer when you're collecting items for resale. So yeah, that's what I wanted to touch on today, and also look at brands as well. Now, when you're starting up your business, you want to think about, okay, what kind of things do I want to resell? What kind of things will my customers come to learn to expect from me? And you've got to manage that. You've got to manage that well. So your next thing is your concept, and so let's just put in a little text box here. Is concept. And so when it comes to like for example brands. Now I'm talking about luxury brands and things like that. I started with Louis Vuitton and only Louis Vuitton. Louis Vuitton exclusive. Now, why did I start with Louis Vuitton? One is because they're fairly easy to resell, because they are very easy to research the names and information on Louis Vuitton. Also, it's very easy because the bags usually there's a lot of the same style of bags, and so they're not very difficult to research and then find out the price. And so if you know that a Neverfull will always sell in B rank condition for $750, if you find a Neverfull in B rank condition for $500, you always buy it. It's that easy. And so buying becomes very easy if it's very easy to research and also to learn as well. And so that's why I started with Louis Vuitton. However, there are things to consider if you're going to do things like that. So let's have a look at a couple of different brands first. Okay, so brands. Louis Vuitton was what I started with. Now, they can be expensive. So the thing is though, is so many other people are doing Louis Vuitton too. So there's a lot of competition. So if you're only selling Louis Vuitton, then you have a lower profit margin. But Louis Vuitton, there's a huge market for Louis Vuitton. Everybody loves Louis Vuitton. They have a huge resurgence. Everybody knows it's a little bit more regulated, and so they sell very quickly and have great turnaround speed. Okay, so those things will sell so quickly, and so if you're starting out and you want to grab something, you can put it up on Poshmark, you can put it up on Facebook, you can put it up on Instagram, and usually if it's Louis Vuitton and it's priced right and you write a good ad, it will sell like that. It will sell so quickly. Of course, there are other things, like some Louis Vuitton items don't sell. For example, like maybe very rare items, items that people don't kind of like notice or understand or see very often. However, if you're looking at Louis Vuitton, you're looking at the classics, then you look at like a Neverfull, you look at a Speedy, you look at an Alma, all those kind of things. Now, for a Neverfull, when I sell Neverfulls, I have a great like source for bags, but I almost make zero profit on Neverfulls. They're very popular, they're very recognizable. Everybody has a structured market for that, and so that means that there's a lot of people buying them as well. So there's so much competition that my Japanese competitors, they throw them all up on eBay, and they're happy to take maybe a $20 profit margin on Neverfulls. And so because I have sometimes higher operating costs than someone who's just going to put something up on eBay, I can't make any money on that, or like $20 isn't quite enough for me. when making never full. However, speedies are another thing. Speedies, there's many more speedies. There's so many speedies in the market, and I find that in Japan, for example, they don't like old items. So if you buy an old item, you can do it up a little bit, then relabel as vintage, and it will sell for a higher price. And so you can make more money on those kind of things, especially if you're able to just spend a couple of minutes just cleaning something up, making it look beautiful. You can just add on quite a lot of money onto those things where you're turning something from old and then turning it into vintage. That is a little key that kind of inspired me to make my own concept. So what we're doing right now a lot on JPorts is we try to think about also pricing as well. So pricing is sometimes when you're selling something for, let's say, over $300, people usually will have $300 easily on their credit card. They'll have credit for $300. They can make a $300 purchase without thinking too much about it. However, over $300, then it's something like, I'll have to ask the husband. That's a bigger investment. That's a bigger commitment. And so anything over $300 sometimes will sit there on your shelf, will sit there on your e-store, will sit there on Poshmark or Facebook for much longer than something that is just $299. So if you think about pricing, I would think about your final price on what you want to sell it for. And if you keep it under $300, I will suggest, I think you'll find that the things will sell so much faster, they'll fly off your shelves. Whereas other times they'll say, let me ask my husband, and then they get back to you after 3 days and we're like, we had a fight about it, and so I'm gonna have to pass, I'm sorry. And so if you can keep items under $300, that is your golden zone. Not always the time, but especially with Louis Vuitton, I find that's the key. Okay, that's Louis Vuitton, and that's why I started with Louis Vuitton. However, there are other things. For example, Chanel. Chanel is another interesting brand that you can kind of look at. And Chanel is, of course, high-end, and so things are much, much more expensive. However, they are much more expensive, so they sell slower. Whoops. Okay, they sell slower, and it's a little bit harder to research on Chanel. It's a bit harder to know all the names or know like the exact terms or even spell the things right sometimes. I found that when I was selling Chanel in the first time in the beginning, I found that the Chanel customers were a little bit more discerning about like whether I knew how to give them all the right information, that asked so many questions that I didn't know how to research or properly explain. And so there's less competition in Chanel too, which means that with Chanel, there is much higher profits. There's much, much higher profit margins. Things will sell slower, but they're higher ends, and so you can buy an item for $1,000 and you can resell it for sometimes $1,500. But you're going to have to do the right homework. For example, you're going to have to build trust. You're going to have to write a good ad, and then make sure that the right pair of eyes see it. Sometimes with a more expensive item, you've just got to wait until the right pair of eyes see it. Sometimes it just can be the waiting game, and sometimes you can second guess yourself. Sometimes you'll be putting an item up and people go, maybe, it's a good price. It doesn't sell. You might be self-guessing yourself about the price or your ad or your pictures, but give yourself more time to sell a higher end item. However, you do get higher profits on those higher end items. Okay, also condition. Condition is important, and it really comes down to you as well. Sometimes people really want to have all beautiful items. However, many people all want to have a small boutique or shop with all beautiful items. Remember, the A grade and the AB grade thing is very, very saturated. I mean, oversaturated, I would say. There's boutiques with only A-grade stuff. And so sometimes people want to go into the boutique and experience the boutique experience. They're very expensive in boutiques. But although they sell for very expensive prices, they're buying for expensive prices too. And so they're pushing up all the prices. And so you at home offering an internet experience on buying a high-end item or beautiful AB or A rank item, you're going to have to really push down the price, and that means that your profit margins are going to be very, very small with very, very beautiful items. So just keep that in mind. I would say, and this is my recommendation, is the slightly lower end, like the B rank condition items, or even the BC, or even the C. There's less competition out there, and so if you can spend a little bit more time, maybe just putting a little bit of mink oil, or putting a little bit of boot polish, or polishing something up, or even giving a little bit of a clean, you can really add value to your items, and then you can easily sell them. And make good profit margins. Sometimes you'll see like $1,000 item and a maybe a $400 item, and you'll be making the same profit margin on both things. So just keep that in mind. That $400 item, because it's a little bit cheaper, will sell faster, and so maybe that's a better idea. Yeah, those are the items. For example, the Chanel, you could go a little bit more vintage item and make more money. If you're going for a very new Chanel item, you'd probably have to make less money if you're selling on the internet. That's just my experience, and that's my advice. Okay, so what brands? I would say for bread and butter, maybe Louis Vuitton is good, because you'll be selling things quickly, but you won't be making so much profit. So it'll be faster turnaround. It'll also be harder work. If you wanted to go with something like for Gucci, I would suggest, what's your target audience? Gucci is very popular for younger people, especially on Instagram. There's so many young people on Instagram. So if you have a phone with a good camera, you can take photos and throw that up on Instagram, and sometimes a lot of Gucci items will sell so quickly at great profit margins. Gucci is the place for Instagram, I think. You could go Fendi. Fendi has so many different arrays of different items that's very hard and unregulated. So if you buy a Fendi, you can make a lot of money on Fendi. You can sell it for a very high profit margin. However, there's not as many big Fendi fans out there, and because people aren't sure whether it's a good deal or a bad deal, and the prices are all over the shop sometimes, that with Fendi, they do stay on the shelf for a longer amount of time as well. Same with perhaps Celine as well, Ferragamo, even Prada as well. They take longer to sell, so but you can make much more money on those items as well. So it's a little bit hard. What do I recommend? You have to make up your own decisions. But for bread and butter and small profit margins, Louis Vuitton is great. For slower sales, but higher end stuff, go with maybe more vintage Chanel. And then for big like profit margins, then go for like you can go for even Burberry, you can go for Prada, you can go for Fendi, and all those things, and mark them up. But they're going to take some more time to sell, and so you're going to have to take really nice photos and really think on making a nice ad. Okay, so that's really it for my concept. We mentioned brands, we mentioned price, we mentioned profit margins, and we mentioned condition. When you're thinking about selling higher end goods, like luxury items, think about that. Think about who you're targeting, and your name, your brand name, and think about how much money you want to expect to be making, what your kind of profit margins you want to make as well. Okay, so that's it for my concept, my lesson 2 concept. Hopefully that did help you guys manage your concept, and I'll see you guys on the next video. See you later. Bye.